Wow, 2025, big year in Canada, big. We got a new prime minister. Donald Trump wants his hands all over the country as if it's an underage beauty pageant contestant. Trade war. A lot of this leads to our new CEO of Canada, Mark Carney. Yay! Banker guy! Mark Carney has sold out Canada in so many new, exciting ways in 2025. To wrap things up for the year, I made a list of 10 choice sellouts by Mark Carney, and honestly, the list is just crazy. This is only 9 months. It's insane. I like to remind people Mark Carney has at least $10 million in assets. He also has multiple homes and many more millions of dollars in other assets that we don't know about because he won't tell us about. Keep those facts in mind whenever you're listening to this. This guy is a rich global elite banker, a cartoonish depiction of a world banker elite.
Hello, I like money.
What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next door to the original?
Money.
And now he's running the country like it's his personal company fleshlight. It's gross. He's just looking out for his best friends who are the capital owning class in Canada. Without further ado, here are my 10 choice sellouts by Mark Carney in 2025. Oh boy. Mark Carney sold out to Trump. Big one right off the top. Throughout the course of the trade war, Carney has conceded on every single demand by Donald Trump, dropping reciprocal tariffs. He gave $2 billion in Canadian tax dollars to evil American tech companies whenever Trump asked him to cut the digital services tax, and he did for nothing in return. That's the art of the deal.
Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America.
Concession after concession to Donald Trump, Carney has ensured that Canada is on the losing side of this trade war, while sucking on Trump's boot. Carney's bootlicking Jeffrey Epstein's best friend of a decade. It's cringe, and it's embarrassing for Canada and Canadians. Carney's supposed to be the big, smart, important guy in the room, right? He knows what he's doing. Carney sold out to Trump also by deepening military integration with America. One big example of that is Mark Carney has said he plans on allowing fascist military installations across the country to build Trump's Golden Dome. Carney will frame it instead as hypersonic missile defense.
There are certain areas where we will want to be integrated and continue to fully cooperate with the United States. I would suggest, some others have a different view, but hypersonic missile defense is one of those areas where we're going to want to do, and we have those discussions with them.
Give it a real fancy name to just justify saying he wants Canada to be littered with fascist military outposts everywhere. This would just put a target on our back, a target that deepens Canada's ties to America's military. Why on God's green earth would Mark Carney be open to this? He's open to it because he's sold us out. You have to understand the defense of America is not the defense of Canada. These are separate places. Carney sold out to Trump to keep Canada's capital-owning class happy at your expense. Mark Carney sold out to ecocidal fossil fuel monsters. Yay! Mark Carney sold out to giant fossil fuel companies. First example that comes to mind is the Alberta federal government's Memoranda of Understanding, which laid out conditions to build more pipelines. Yay, more pipelines! He also wants ever-increasing fossil fuel production. Mark Carney cut the carbon tax, and he's supporting the Pathways Group, which is just a conglomerate of all the biggest oil sands companies, and then it's their lobbying group. He's sold out. While Mark Carney was in his elite world banker phase, he at least signaled to the importance of the climate crisis and the immediate action that it requires. Emblematic of the corruption of the soul is how he completely sold Canada out to fossil fuel executives. An executive like the new head of the Major Projects Office. who's getting paid $500K a year, and get this, is an oil company executive. You know, she's just gonna be so happy to approve and fast track obsolete technology like bitumen pipelines to maximize fossil fuel extraction in Canada. He's sold us out to these people who are accelerating climate crises in this country. That will cost you and your family every year onwards. Mark Carney sold us out to wealthy investors and companies, more capital owning class buddies. The 2025 budget has massive corporate handouts and massive tax cuts for insanely rich corporations, handouts at the expense of working class folk struggling to judge the many crises that they face.
None of these goals will come easily or quickly. All will require ambition, collaboration, and yes, on occasion, sacrifice.
Carney's budget is demanding that Canadians sacrifice more to pay for these handouts. And none of that is ever going to come back to benefit the workers. Mark Carney sold Indigenous rights, specifically their right to free, prior, and informed consent for projects in Canada. All this to help some insanely rich companies, of course, again, because Carney views Indigenous people as a speed bump, a pesky little speed bump to nation-building projects. So he gave his government a veto-proof override of Indigenous rights. Carney has sold out any chance of reconciliation with the crimes of colonization. Carney sold Canadians fundamental freedom to strike by using an archaic anti-labor law that deems strikes illegal. Big case of this was the Air Canada flight attendant strike in 2025, that shortly after starting their strike, Carney used this archaic law, Section 107 of the Labour Code, to call it illegal.
President and CEO of Air Canada. Michael, thank you very much. You're a busy man, to put it mildly. Really appreciate it. What was your reaction to what you heard from the union?
Well, good afternoon, Andrew. So obviously disappointment for our customers. Over 500,000 customers have been influenced or impacted by this illegal strike, and we want to see an end to it.
Strikes cannot be declared illegal. If some rich folks can unilaterally declare strikes as illegal, then it's not a fundamental freedom. Declaring strikes as illegal shredded Canadians' collective rights and freedoms as outlined in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. To help out CEOs and executives of big companies. Are you seeing a pattern here? Reminder again, this guy has at least $10 million. He's just looking out for his buddies. Carney sold out Canadians to the military-industrial complex. Not good. He did this by sucking on Trump's boot by committing to quadrupling Canada's military expenditure. Quadrupling it to 5% of GDP. The highest levels of militarization that we've seen in this country since at least World War II. And Carney got nothing in return for this. He just really wanted it because the military-industrial complex is a leech that thrives off of neoliberalism, austerity, and war. To pay for it, Carney has to cut public services that working-class Canadians rely on to lead dignified lives. He sold us out, though. The money, the blood money. Speaking of, Mark Carney sold Canada out to imperialism. Nothing new, but he did it nonetheless. Carney sold us out with enormous trade deals with the United Arab Emirates and their blood money funded by their gold for genocide deal with the RSF in Sudan. Carney sold us out to the UAE while organs of justice are screaming that the UAE is arming genocide. And of course, Carney has maintained close economic ties with Israel throughout side of Palestine. He's still going around saying we need Zionist Palestine, Zionist Palestine. He's a monster. Carney has continued to materially support Israel's war machine, refusing to follow international law as activists and Palestinians continue to demand and protest for real action. The 2025 budget also had $300 million penned to build up Canadian military capabilities in the Middle East.
And as I speak to you today, Canadian troops are participating in NATO deterrence and defense missions across Central and Eastern Europe, as well as building capacity in the Middle East.
Geography quiz time. The question, is Canada in the Middle East? This is an obvious help to Carney's beloved ally, Israel, and America's domination of the region. What a fucking sellout. Mark Carney has sold out the children of this country, especially kids from vulnerable populations. Food insecure children accessing food banks are up 5% from 2024. It's now up to 710,000 child visits to food banks per month. Carney's literally starving Canada's future. In our beautiful, plentiful country, resource-rich, blessed country, it is a political failure that we have food insecure children. Gotta sell them out though, keep the capital-owning class happy. Mark Carney sold out Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Similar to the last one, but slightly different. Ecocide for a buck. A buck that goes into the pockets of the wealthy. But Canada is heating up at twice the global average already, and there are multiple calamitous climate events taking place each year. To me, it feels like half the country is on fire for half the year. This is not good. And Carney is accelerating the ecocide by feeding these fossil fuel companies to line his and his capital-owning buddies' pockets. He's selling out the literal future of this country. Carney sold out migrants, refugees, and students. Mark Carney is deporting 400 people a week from Canada. A horrific stat, the highest rate in a long time. Deportations of refugees and people seeking a better life in this country of immigrants is an insular, shrinking ideology pandering to white supremacists. Migrants coming to Canada are not the issue. Refugees don't decide your rent. Guatemalans aren't your boss who's screwing you over. Indian students don't dictate grocery prices. Ukrainian refugees don't control the cost of living. They're not the problem. The problem is greed. But these 400 people a week, gotta go, sold them out to white supremacist ideology. Gross. He also sold them out by pushing for new laws that human rights have decried as blatant attacks on refugees. With the exception of the indigenous population, Canada is a country of immigrants. But Mark Carney is a racist multimillionaire who will throw migrants under the bus to frame them as the economic woe of all working Canadians. One more on this point. Carney halved the number of international students allowed to come to Canada. International students have become a lifeblood of Canadian academia. Listeners, just think how much soft power is received by attracting the world's best and brightest to pay to come here. This is an attack on education institutions and the workers who are being fired as a result of these attacks. And again, he did this to throw some red meat to white supremacist ideology while hurting foundational institutions like universities. Wow, what a list. 2025, big year for Mark Carney, big year for the capital-owning class. Not you. And I just cannot wait to find out how he's going to sell out more and more of us in 2026. Because it's coming. It's only been 9 months, people. This guy doesn't care about you or your friends and family. He's here to line his pockets. What a sellout. Mark Carney, Israel, Donald Trump, free Palestine. If you enjoy my commentary, you must subscribe. You gotta do it. You gotta press the little thumbs up. You gotta do it. Anyways, take care, everybody. Peace and love. Until next time.